Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another rules breakdown. Now it feels really weird to be back at the desktop doing one of these. It's been so long since I've done a physical book. All the more recent rules breakdowns I've done have been of PDF files on the computer desktop. So this feels really retro, weird and old to be back. But cool to be doing a physical book once again. Now this time I'm going to be doing Immortal: The Invisible War. Now, I did a retro RPG of this on Monday, so if you want to find out more about the game, that video should be up already. But this is the 1994 first edition. Now, the rules for this, from what I understand, because I don't have it, I haven't read through I don't have the second edition, I haven't read through the third edition. The third edition is actually free to download from the website, is that the rules are very different, because they did realize that this book was a bit clunky. Now, I've no idea how different. I may cover the third edition at some point in the future. But for the moment, this is only for the first edition. You'll have to have a look and see yourself what the differences are for second and third editions. Now, usually I would use a template character or an NPC. But unfortunately, none of those come in the book. There are no templates for characters, and the NPCs are very, very vague. We've got an adventure right at the back here. And none of them have any attributes at all. There they are. I mentioned what pride they're from, the Himsati, what tier they're at, but no attributes, no abilities. So we are very vague on what they are. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the character sheet, which is on page 130. So this is going to be our guide. Now, rather than have attributes, what Immortals have are these colours. They're auras. And you can see you can have a number of points in each of those. But they also have this free immaculum. And these are points they can shift around. So they will have 2 or 3 or up to, what is that, about 15 points they can shift around and put into their different auras. So if a Immortal wants to shift their power and become more powerful or more resistant or more intelligent, they can shift these free points around to manipulate their being. That's one of the things of being an Immortal. We've also got their health levels here, their attentions, their talents, but we'll come on to all of those later. Now, with the free immaculum, you've got to remember these points can be shifted around and used as part of this. Now, I probably won't remember to mention them in every sample I do from here on in. One of the other things of Immortal is you're supposed to roll dice of each of the shades. So you're supposed to have 6 coloured dice, a red, violet, orange, yellow, green, blue, as well as 3 others of black, white and grey. Well, I'm afraid I don't have those. I've only got what I raided from my dice, and we will work what we can with those. I'm guessing they made quite a few bucks on selling Immortal dice. I don't know how many violet dice there are out there. My fire elemental counts as orange, I suppose. But we're almost there, and we'll use what we've got. Now, for all skill attempts, you're using things called talents. But these are all based on one of your aura colours. So we'd better have a look at what the aura colours represent first. So we're going to page 51. Characteristics. So, your red aura is your resolve. They represent how intelligent and willful your persona is. Orange is force, your physical strength, how much you can lift and how much damage you deal in combat. Yellow is expertise, manual dexterity, balance and coordination. Green is movement, how much you move, so how fast fly, swim or run. Blue is awareness, sight, instinct, general attention to detail. And violet is resilience. So your stamina, how much punishment you can take, and your resistance to poison, drugs and diseases. Now, the talents themselves, if we go to page 141, are broken down by the colour they're connected to. So we've got academic skills here. All of these use red dice. So your red attribute, your resolve. And these include anatomy, anthropology, astronomy. Cabalism, meteorology, zoology. We've got aggressions, which use yellow, which are things like archery, demolitions, dodging, fencing, flails, interrogation, lip reading, light sleep. We've got gentiles, which use red as well. So acrobatics, skating, singing, skiing. We've got legacies, which are all different. They're listed next to them. So Achilles' heel, blue. The bonding, orange. Eidolon, red. Esteem, blue. Right through to the yearning, which is a blue one. Remedies use red again, and these are acupuncture, first aid, forensics, herbalism, surgery, all your sort of medical ones. Urbane use red. So these are computers, criminology, repair. These are more technical things. Scouting, urban, woodworking. Now, what does that mean? It means that you are, if we go back to page 138, you're applying your talent. So if you're untrained, you're getting a -5 to your dice roll. If you're familiar, you're getting a +1, and right up to laureate, which is +5. Plus you're adding whatever. So if you're rolling on red and you've got 3 points in that, you've got +3 plus whatever here. So let's say they're untrained. So they've got +3 from their red. They're rolling on their skill. They've rolled a 1. So +3 takes them up to 4. -5 takes them down to -1, and they've failed because the target numbers here are based on 3s, 6s, 9s, 12s, and 15s. But these are based on how well you are succeeding. So if you're trying to do something more difficult, then you might get extra hostiles, because a dice roll is called a hostile. Now, if it's of the same colour, you're upgrading from a 3 to a 6, so you need to get a higher number. If it's of a different colour, so if you are rolling a red dice and you get a yellow hostile, you'll be rolling based on your yellow as well. You'll be making 2 separate rolls to succeed, and both of them have to succeed. If you roll a 0 or a 10 on the dice, you automatically fail. However, that might not be a complete failure if it's not the core skill, if it's one of the hostiles for effect. So if you're trying to chase somebody and you get a hostile for the terrain being rough and it's rolling a different dice, then if you fail on that one, then you might not totally lose the person. You'll still be able to keep chasing them. You'll just have a negative effect. Whereas if you failed both dice or you failed the core one, then you would totally fail that skill roll. Now, just to try and clarify that, because I'm aware I've probably waffled a bit and made it sound a lot more difficult than it is. You're rolling a d10 against whichever one of the talents you're using. The target number that you're trying to beat is dependent on how difficult it is. It's usually a 3, but if there's certain circumstances that make it more difficult, it might be a 6, a 9, a 12, or a 15. It will go up. Things like you wounded will affect it. And you're modifying that by whichever one of the aura colours that talent comes under. So if you've got 3 pips in that, you're modifying it up by 3. And then by how well trained in the skill you are, the talent. So if you're untrained, you're getting -5, familiar +1, trained +2, etc. As simple as that. You're trying to beat the target number, being modified by your talent level and your aura. Now, initiative in combat is dealt with on page 160, and it is rolled every single round. So, the 3-step combat sequence. We've got the allocation phase, where you get to allocate your 3 points of Immaculum to one of your auras, which in combat you might want to be changing to yellow to make you more expert in combat, or you might be wanting to put it to violent to make you more resistant, or orange to make you more damaging. But phase 2, initiative phase, is concluded. A 10-sided dice is rolled. So this character goes in 5, another character goes in 2. But this is modified by whatever amount of free Immaculum you've got. If we go on to the next page, we can see that free Immaculum modes get you extra actions as well. So, as well as adding, if you've got 2 points, you would add 2 to your dice roll. If you've got 3 points, however, you add 3 to your dice roll and you get a second action. Now, everybody gets to go once in the order from highest to lowest, based on their dice roll modified by their free modes. And then anybody who gets further actions, so some people might get 2, 3, 4 if they have lots of free Immaculum modes, go round in sequence until everybody has run out of actions. Now, to hit in combat, it's dealt with on page 163, just on from the initiative stuff. And basically, it's an ordinary skill roll. So you're rolling 1d10, and you're adding your yellow aura, because that's your expertise, so your expertise. So let's say this character has 3, you'll be adding 3 to your dice roll. Then you're looking for your talent. So if you have you're using a sword and you have sword talent, then you are adding 1 point to that for having a basic sword talent, or more if you've got higher levels, or -5 if you're untrained with the weapon you're using. And whatever you get, that's going to be your damage. But if somebody's dodging or defending, which is dealt with on the next page in defending, parrying, and dodging, they are rolling their skill, and that's taking away from yours. So if you rolled a 10, modified by your yellow and your talents and all that, and they are defending and they get a 9, then you have a success of 1, and that's what carries on through for your damage. However, if they'd rolled an 11, so they rolled higher than you, then your attack has failed. Now, your damage is based on 2 things. How well you did in your attack roll. So let's say we just carried on through that last one, and we got 1. So you've only done 1 point of damage. Then you have to roll on which vital area you've hit. So we roll a dice, we've got a 6, we hit the sternum, solar plexus, knee, groin, +2. So we're up to 3 points of damage. But then it also is based on what weapon we're using. So we go right back towards the end of the book to page 275. We've got lots of weapon tables here, right through different types here. But we said we were using a sword. So let's say a broadsword. We need a orange motes of 4 to be able to use it. And we carry it across, and it does 6 damage. So we've actually done 9 damage. However, to resist the damage, then the defender, as they've already parried, now uses their violent plus any armor they've got to resist it. So they're looking at their violent, and let's say they've got 3. So we take that up to 9, we've got it down to 6. And the body armor that they're wearing, if they're wearing any armor, is dealt with right after the combat, right after the weapons, sorry. And we can see normal clothes offer nothing, leather jackets, chainmail offer 3, plate mail, high-tech powered armor offers a 5, mystically enchanted armor. So let's say they're wearing leather, so that reduces it by 1. So the 9 has been reduced by the 3 points of their violet, plus 1 for their leather, so we're down to 5. Now I've got to note that, as usual, I'm doing the very basic version of combat, only to get you through first session or so, because there are a lot of modifiers which can be added in. So in the pages after the damage, we've got things here like scopes in ranged combat, armor degradation, called shots, what effects being encumbered has, environmental effects, so if you're in mud, what effects having multiple dodges, extended maneuvers, familiarity, recoil from firearms, if you're fatigued, suffering from flashbacks, if you're held. There are lots and lots of modifiers in here to make combat far more interesting. Lots of pages of them right through. Now, we've determined that we've done 5 points of damage. But what does that actually mean? Does that mean 5 hit points of damage? No, you need to look up a chart. Now on page 165, we have the damage value. And basically to do a wound of each level, you have to achieve that many points. So we got 5, so we're not quite an impairing wound. We've got a light wound. Now, one of the effects of having a light wound is that the wounded character now has to roll a pain hostile dice as well, and get a 3 to succeed and do anything. They'll be rolling that in addition because they're distracted by the pain. And if they get higher levels, they are rolling towards a much higher target number to be able to do things. But what does that actually mean if you receive a light wound? Well, looking at the character sheet, we can see that the characters have multiple of each of the health levels. But how many? Well, rather weirdly, it's dealt with on page 94. And it's dealt with by weight. So the heavier a character is, the more damage they can take. Going from under 8 ounces, where they can only take a light wound, up to 300 to 400 tons where they can take 2 mortal wounds. But round about the middle here, you know, you're 61, you're 100, up to 250. You can take 9 or 10 light wounds, 3 impairing wounds, 2 severe wounds, 1 crippling wound, and 1 mortal wound. And obviously, when you fill each of these, if you can take 5 light wounds, for example, it will spill over if you take more light wounds to the next level. Or you can receive massive amounts of damage and receive that level anyway. Now, healing back from these is dealt with on page 155. And if I can find it. And basically healing up each level takes an amount of time, no matter how many boxes you've got filled in. If you've been poisoned, it takes double the amount of time. But if you received a mortal wound, it'll take you 45 days to heal up. Crippling wounds 30, severe wounds 18, impairing wounds 9, and light wounds take you 3. So no matter how many light wounds, 3 days later you'll be completely healed. And advancement. Well, you gain points for completing adventures, and that's dealt with on page 250, where it tells you, excellent performance gives you 2 points, successfully counting coup, 1 to 5 points, entertaining the narrator gives you an optional extra, doing a great speech gives you 1 optional extra, etc. But spending these, if we go back to page 140, we can see that costs vary. So it depends on the complexity of the talent, and then how much it costs going up. So complexity 1 talent only costs you 1 point to buy it to familiar level. Costs an additional 3 to take it up to trained, further 5 to professional, 7 to master, 9 to laureate, for a total of 25. Going right up to complexity 5 talents, which 9 for familiar, plus 11 for trained, 13 for pro, 15 for master, 17 for laureate, for a total of 65 points. And you buy up your talents using the experience you've gained during adventures. So, that is Immortal, the Invisible War. It's really quite an interesting system, although it does come across as overly complex. The idea that you can move basically your attributes around based on your situation, because the Immortals are kind of shapeshifters and changed by their environments, a really interesting one. Their talents are stuck. What they learn and what they learn to do is obviously you spend experience on and baked into the character, but their attributes themselves are a bit more flexible. The idea of having to use the differently coloured dice, I think you can get away with using just 2 or 3 different colours, because really the only situations you can be rolling different coloured dice is you're going to be rolling your talent to do something. You're going to be rolling a hostile for damage you've received in combat, and if there's an environment one of a 3rd colour. So the situation means that you are resisting a strong wind or something, so you're rolling on a 3rd attribute against the target number. So 3 coloured dice probably do it. I can't imagine you ever rolling more coloured dice than that. So you just determine, you tell the games master which colour, which dice is referring to which roll. You could even make them with 1 dice sequentially. But anyway, it's a fascinating game. It's very clunky. I'd be very interested in having a look through the 3rd edition, which, as I said, is available free to download from their website. I'll put a link in the description down below. But as usual, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.